Hey there, I am back with another video. It is 2:07 p.m. It is June 5th, and it is a Thursday afternoon. So I've been working off and on this morning and afternoon putting together my video, me talking about my personal experience with human trafficking, which I'm just like, my mind is blown as I'm doing my narration. I am talking a little bit about the Prince Alamehu Berganza, phenomenon lightly, because I believe that, people who have been a part of the Christian church understand that this sort of cloning process has been going on for quite a while. And I do believe that because I've never become like an official church member, I was never really aware of this because I was a clone, and a lot of church members were kind of against clones because it was such an unusual practice, okay? But yet, every single church, was instructed, possibly by the Mormon church and their offshoots, to treat me a certain way, okay? Bad idea, bad idea. Okay, but as I'm putting together my presentation for this, which is the last part of this video, okay, and I really have been, I don't like to say running behind because, really there is no deadline for me, but at the same time, it's like, I usually like, feel more energetic about things, but I would say that things that happened and occurred in my life was so negative. Like everybody around me is nothing but negative, right? And I believe that if a person is a very spiritually connected person, they are going to be very different from most people. So I understand that, their standards of the way that they have treated me is unacceptable. And I'm basing this off of not only how it makes me feel, which is devastated, and also what I experience. I've experienced financial devastation because of their foolishness. And I do believe that their foolishness was not just foolishness, it was meant to be deceitful, okay? I want to go out a little bit more into that in a minute. And then also, this is one of the reasons what prompted me to make the moral reset, okay? These people did not care about me one bit, okay? And I understand. I accept this in life, okay? Not everyone's going to like you. I fully understand. But this should outline and highlight a very important fact about morality and religion, okay? Because some of these people were coming at me in ways that it's like, it shocked me the entire time how people could not recognize this as something just very, very dark, okay? So I'm going through my script, and I'm writing this part of the project, as I'm literally going along, okay? Not like my other ones where I've already had it written out and I'm reading it. This is like I'm trying to figure out how should I jump in and explain this, because this is a big story, but yet I want to condense it down because I know that I've talked about this on, flipping the Nazi experiment, and I just went on and on and on. Before I knew it, it was like 3 hours long. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy, okay? But still, all right, so I wanted to talk about this very important issue because as I was talking, and I'm not mentioning, my biological mother's name in the video. I am talking about her being a part of the cloning program because, when you think about how this system works, who the underground crime syndicate and who they've produced throughout the years, moved one place and smuggled people into this one area, changed names, changed birth dates, and everything else. This operation has been, I believe, between, England, the United States, and possibly Germany, because I'm thinking of, places like Joseph Mengele. This is where all these people come into the mix. And what ties them together is, they're wanting to, protect the white race. I can assure you, when it comes to white people, I'm not somebody who's trying to threaten them, okay? I just exist. Now, I understand Rex Laverne was a very different person. I mean, goodness, I don't believe every white person is like Rex Laverne, but do I think that if Rex Laverne created things that could make people do things, beyond their will, or he was manipulating a lot of people, okay, which was very disturbing. Anyway, but to make a long story short, if I could possibly do that, anyway, that I was dealing with something very, very dark, okay, something that was really, I think, must have had some sort of connection with Rex Laverne and his low self-esteem and his desire to take everything a person does. A lot of people do. Some people do this. They take everything that you do personally. Okay, like I remember a long time ago, like my dad was really good at his lawn and stuff like that. So I understand, like he'd go out and he'd fix up his lawn, and the lawn that he would do, it was like, so it was green. I mean, his lawn was green, well trimmed, and he could make anything grow, okay? So it was like, I know that some people would always kind of envy that, and some people would say, come by and say little snide remarks because they kind of felt in competition with my dad. That was not his intent. We just want to have the best kind of possible surrounding we possibly could. And in his mind, it's like, well, you know what? I own a house now. He wanted to take a little pride in it, make sure he felt good when he went outside in his yard. It had nothing to do with him saying, oh, I got the best lawn. But, some people just, they just cannot control themselves. And this is the case with Rex Laverne. So the ugliness about it is I understand that my biological family took advantage of certain things. And as I was discussing this part in the video that I was narrating, talking about how Joseph Mengele was obviously he did a lot of bizarre experiments, but most of his experiments had a lot to do with things like twins, right? Okay, so he had an interest in twins. I understand that I myself have a twin, right? But as I was sitting here narrating this, a thought came to my mind, okay? Now, I had seen a few YouTube videos, I would say maybe about a year ago or so, okay? And I don't watch them all the time, but when I do, I know that these people are talking about me because my story is very widespread. I am somebody who I'm coming to realize has a long history going back to the 1960s before I was even Maria Borden, okay? So my point is that, people talk about me. I'm somebody who is reported on. Like I said, I've been getting messages in my mind about being in reels, okay? So what I'm trying to say about this is that this particular video that I watched about a year ago was about somebody impersonating me, right? Somebody was impersonating me, and I kept thinking, okay, I don't know why, but I knew that I had a twin back in 2023 when I came to the realization that I was a clone, right? So I kept thinking, all right, well, if somebody is impersonating me, I don't know what exactly could they possibly be doing, okay? Now, I looked at my twin sister, okay? I looked her up, right? And I'm looking at her, and this might be maybe some of the other part of the reason as to why they wanted me to wear my hair natural, or they wanted me to, change the way I look. This way it would be easier for her to sit here and take advantage of me. You know why? Because she could pretend to be me, right? She could pretend to be me easier. But do I think that maybe there has been times, or possibly that she has taken advantage of the slight resemblance that we do have? That's a possibility. And the very fact that she was never introduced herself or anything like that, not that I'd want her to at this point, it makes me very suspicious. So I do believe that these people had crime on their mind. Crime, okay? Taking advantage of certain situations and using it for their leverage. Do I believe that she had something to do with maybe the Patreon thing? I wouldn't put it past her. Okay, I really would not put it past her. All I'm saying is that, this to me is like this mind-blowing story, and every time I think about it, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's almost surreal. It's almost surreal. Now, I'm getting a message about my Swan Song Manifesto. That is mine, okay? And no, it cannot be duplicated, even if she is my, twin sister. She is not biologically, she's my biological sister, mind you, but we have no legal ties to each other. And no, she cannot sit here and pretend that she's me. I am the only Maria Borden, okay? What else did I want to say? Okay, I get the intuitive message that a lot of people like the idea of removing vigilantes, and I do believe that's kind of being actively done. It's very difficult to sit here and create all of this sort of stuff all on my own. There's so many things I want to cover, and I want to be as thorough as I possibly can. But yeah, that's really the heart of it. When I was thinking about making my video talking about the whole Joseph Mengele thing, one of the ways that they were able to accomplish these sort of underground crime syndicates is through things like dual affiliations. That's exactly what it was, and using things like churches to do it. You know what I mean? So I fully understand it, and I get it, because I would say that churches did a lot to ostracize me. This is one of the things I've noticed. Even black churches were causing me problems. And I found that very odd. And you know what else I found odd? Even though much years later, after I studied with Jehovah's Witnesses, I come to find out that even though Jehovah's Witnesses always referred to other religions as Babylon the Great and all this other stuff, meaning that they were like the bad ones, right? I come to find out that my son's father mother, right, who was a Jehovah's Witness, was all involved in this group. Like, she was involved in it. She was involved in my targeting and everything, because they were accepting and recognizing Jehovah's Witnesses as being a part of their big, I guess you want to call it conglomerate of churches. And that's exact really pissed me off. Like I said, this is what made me come to under the understanding that, you know what, I'm just so, I've already been done with man-made religion, but this was just like that was the last straw. Okay, it was just the last straw. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why I find it important to understand what it is that you believe in, and this is the reason why I rejected organized religion for a very long time. It is not me in any way saying that, trying to create a problem or anything like that. It was just the fact that I had certain standards, and I felt as though organized religion was just not up to par. Not up to par. Okay, not with me. I believe in certain things. When it comes to, I believe in being honest when it comes to spiritual things. I really, really do. And to me, that is the basis and what would prove, whether a person is truly walking with God. Yes, it does matter. Okay, so anyway, the Song Manifesto is mine. I don't know if, like I said, if there's a possibility that she may have been trying to present it off of her own. This might be a part of how the entire underground operation works, taking advantage of things like clones, never, mothers that distance themselves from the children and come back later to come back and financially exploit them. These people have criminal minds, okay? Very, very criminal minds. But I believe, I get this message. Hang on a second. Yeah, I do believe that, Rex Laverne, as well as my blood family, were, they were considering getting rid of me, like killing me, okay? Somehow, whether that be me killing myself because, they were causing all these depressive situations or whatever, but these people were a part of a very dark underground ring, a very dark, okay? It's not just somebody playing with your employment, okay, which was devastating in any way. But this covert operation was meant to keep private so that if I did die, right, it would be something that nobody really wanted to pay attention to. Because the thing would be like, oh, well, she was crazy or she was whatever. And so it's like the operation is to get away with murder, in broad daylight. Okay, so just so you know. Anyway, and I'm aware of it anyway because I understand things like Nazis, stuff like that, because I've been studying that kind of stuff my entire life. Okay, so anyway, what else do I want to talk about? Oh yeah, okay, now I think this issue, okay, me talking about Prince Alamehu and C.B. Braganza, I was putting their pictures side by side. And I'm pretty sure when I first came to understand that I was C.B. Braganza, I'm pretty sure that Rex Laverne may have went through to great length to try to prevent me from getting my point of view across or whatever, because I'm starting to think that Rex Laverne, it was deeper than just being the person who captured my apparition. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, okay, I believe that I was seen with my father in the 1960s as an apparition, okay, because we're soul travelers, right? So what made me think about this is because I know that I was, as C.B. Braganza, when he came to the United States, he went to the Antelope Valley, right? And he was working for a family, a mortuary family, right? And then he worked for the cemetery. Now, I believe, just based off historical records and stuff like that, and I'm coming to put this whole thing together, these two and two issues together, because I know in the 1800s, right? And I do believe cloning had been going on long before that. But I do believe like in the 1800s, they were possibly able to perfect it better or make it better or fine tune it more. You know what I mean? So my point is that, okay, so then here comes C.B. Braganza, right? And, where was I going with this? About the cloning thing. I got a note here. Let me see. Okay. So, yeah, okay, so then C.B. Braganza comes out, and then he, was previously living in England, so he comes to the United States to live in Lancaster, California. Okay, here I go again. Okay, so he ended up working for the mortuary business. Now I understand, like in the 1800s, this is when they were probably getting, like I said, very good experience, getting used to more, I guess, better technology on how to do these sort of things, to where they can produce all these, what do you call it, Cabbage Patch type babies, which is what we saw on these postcards, right? So now we have all these kids and this increase of people, and it was obviously done through here in the United States as well as over in England, bringing these people over here. So C.B. Braganza was resented because I don't believe while he was in Ethiopia, I believe he was an incubator baby, and I don't believe that the emperor and the empress were his real parents. I don't believe that. Okay, I believe that he was somebody they were taking care of him. They must have been his guardians or something like that. But I do not believe that that was his parents. Okay, so because I believe that Prince Alemannia, or CB, I believe that he was consistently claimed over and over and over again. Okay, anyway, so CB Braganza, from I was looking at his clothes, when he was in England, and then he came over here. Okay. C.B. Braganza had a very, what you call, eclectic look. You know what I mean? Because I do understand that he traveled a lot with his guardian. He kind of went around different parts of the world, and then he got into all these different kind of clothing styles because this is something that he appreciated. Now I've met people in the past who've traveled a lot, and they might go to places like China, or I knew this one neighbor that really had this whole Japanese type of, what do you call it, fascination, even though he was not Japanese. Okay, it's just this could also have a lot to do with your past life. Like, I still like Indian Prince. I like Indian Prince. I like the music. Why do I like the music? To me, it's very meditative. It helps me relax. It helps me focus. I mean, so people who are able to experience different things become very eclectic. I do believe that this was something that was resented by the Church of England at that time, okay? And I do understand now by doing additional research that the schools that Prince Alemannia went to were associated with the Church of England, okay? Now, the Mormons and all their offshoots or whatever here in the United States, they pretty much, I think the fact that they put so much emphasis on genealogy, this must have made them somewhat of like, a go-to reference person. And then perhaps maybe the Mormons felt as though what they understood about other people's genealogy was important, right, I guess, to a certain degree, and they wanted to, interconnect with their informational systems. However, I still see the hypocrisy in being intertwined when, there were basically other religions, such as the Jehovah's Witnesses, saying, oh, well, we're supposed to be separate. And they were even going so far to call these people offensive things like Babylon the Great and so on and so forth. So, I'm not really cool with that. But anyway, yeah, okay. I got the intuitive message that Rex Laverne thought that it would be a good idea to have me put to death because I wore nice clothes in this life, okay? This is one of the reasons why he was completely against me. He thought it would be better if I was to die, and that he thought that I would be more powerful in death. Now, I do understand that I have the ability to be seen on camera like my father and all this other stuff, but I would be of no use to Rex Laverne because I don't care about Rex Laverne. So therefore, I wouldn't help Rex Laverne on purpose, whether I was alive or dead. So Rex Laverne had mental problems, obviously, right? Anyway, so and these religious people who get so blinded by their faith, they tend to forget or even not even be aware that certain things are illegal. He must have felt very entitled to do what he was doing. That's mind-blowing to me, okay? But anyway, what else do I want to say? Okay, so yes, I do get the intuitive message that I was aware that the police department is completely aware of my case. Okay, I'm also starting to get be aware that they're possibly thinking or had something to do or understand something relating to my twin sister about her involvement in this scandal, okay? And I'm just gonna let them handle it. If it's done, it's done. If it's not, I will put it in their hands. I need to wash myself from this. I'm tired of thinking about it. To me, it's just very disturbing, but you know good and well that a few days from now, something's gonna come to me, and I'm gonna be on this thing making another video about it, because that's just how it is. This bullshit just seems endless to me. It's like, it's a constant, every single day I discover something, and it's all negative. All negative. I think the only good part about everything right now is my understanding that a lot of the clones, I mean the clones in general, are being freed. Like, you know, they're having the ability to make lives for themselves and standing up against their, what do you call it, their targeting, which I think is wonderful. What else do I want to say? Okay, so yes, I understand that Rex Laverne caused a lot of problems, and but I do understand where all this ties into. It ties into religion. It ties into you know, Nazism, the idea of people like Rex Laverne, who, you know, some white people believe that, you know, you're a threat just because you exist. I never thought in 1 minute, like, to seriously do anything to try to one up somebody. Okay, I try to make the best out of my life. That's it. You know what I mean? You have to sit in an environment, you know, for God knows how long, right? So why not try to make it as pleasant as possible? When I do things like that, I don't sit here and think, I wonder, is that woman over there, you know, is she thinking about this, and can I beat her and be the first one to do this or whatever? I literally just think of something to do, and I just do it. You know, so I think Rex Laverne to me was a big nightmare. He was like this huge nightmare, and I can tell you, I do have, you know, weird phobias and fears because of what he did. You know what I mean? Very bad person. Anyway, so I'm gonna wrap up my video. Hopefully I'll be done with it. And I know it's taken me a long time, but like I said, you know, I just drive along because, you know, my momentum is not as strong as it used to be. Okay, I am utterly disgusted by what, you know, these people have done. And like I said, when I think about it, it's all negative, with the exception of finding out that, you know, I'm glad clones are free. And I also am glad that I got the intuitive message about this issue being widespread and well known. Like, you know, I do believe that sometimes while I was going to job interviews, I was possibly under surveillance and possibly being seen on maybe like a dark web or something like that. I do believe that I have been, you know, trafficked, and I believe that Rex Laverne exploited me through these sort of electronic means somehow. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but I do believe that he did. Okay, I do believe that this is well known, and that Rex was a very pathetic person. What else do I want to say? Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, people are aware of me, you know, being back from the 1960s or whatever. I'm being very general in my video presentation about this. Like, you know, I'm talking a little bit about the pony, because when you really get down to it, that is the reason why. That is it. It's bloodline targeting, and it's not just somebody, you know, calling you the N-word, or somebody, you know, kind of, you know, trying to mess with you or something. This was a huge issue. Okay, it was a huge issue. I'm talking about where, you know, it was an orchestrated plan to destroy somebody, to take somebody down, okay? And it was not something that I myself did. It was something that was, you know, created by people who had the ability to clone, who wanted to reduce the quality of life from people of certain lineages, okay? So it was like their way of trying to say, can we beat you this time in this life? Look, I would have never been interested in anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with, you know, let me try to beat you on this or whatever. But do I believe that there should be solutions made to certain problems? Yes. Just like, you know, this issue of people feeling burnout at their work. I understand it because I've lived under that. I've lived under just really poorly orchestrated work offices, workspaces. So this is one of the reasons why I'm saying, it's like, well, you know what? I believe that has to change. I believe it has to change, okay? So this is the reason why I feel this way, and I have this sort of mindset, because I am somebody who is a victim of their poor management. Okay, this orchestrated idea to where everybody has to live in a very low or low, what do you call it? Low morale type manner. And I would say that the kind of trafficking and the people that were around it really did not have any business sense. And I do believe that they were not, they were, they were not conducive to people's mental well-being. I don't believe so at all. Okay. So, yeah, that's how I feel. And because I'm basing it off of, you know, I'm basing it off of psychology. Okay. That's basically what I'm saying. Okay. I think, you know, he caused a lot of problems, and I understand that his idea, it was supposed to be based off a idea of keeping women submissive and all this other stuff. Unfortunately, and because I was somebody who could not go along with that program, just by default, number one, I'm not white and I'm not Mormon. Okay, so really, I shouldn't be a part of that equation. But he felt as though since I wasn't going to be a part of it, then I didn't deserve to I didn't deserve to live. You know what I mean? And so that's absurd, right? To me, Rex Laverne was a very disgusting man. Like, I really, he looked kind of retarded in the eyes. You know what I mean? I thought he was something, I really didn't like looking at him. He made me sick. So I think that he was somebody who had a problem with women in general. Like, he was not somebody that women would choose like their first choice. You know what I mean? I think that for the most part, he was the kind of person that a lot of women would avoid. Something very gross about him. Something very gross about him. Anyway, I just wanted to share my discovery about that, you know, because it did come to my mind. Also, oh yeah, what I wanted to say really quick is that, okay, I did some research about, you know, of course, C.B. Berganza going to Lancaster, California, and he worked in the mortician business, as well as, you know, manning, I guess, the cemetery. Well, you know, as I was looking, you know, back on some old records, you know, all of these cemeteries came up in alphabetical order. And I had noticed that there was a cemetery by the name of Laverne in, I think it's called now Evergreen Cemetery. Now, maybe the Laverne family had taken an interest in me long before I even moved to Bakersfield. I don't know. Okay, I could be doing readings about it or something, but it seems very odd. Perhaps maybe his family was in the mortuary business. Okay, and it wouldn't surprise me because he seemed very engrossed in his white ideology ideas. Okay, and he could have been, of course, being fueled by Mormonism, and also his family having a history involved in that sort of stuff. Okay, because even though Laverne may be a very common name, like over in Europe, it's something that kind of stands out here in the United States, and especially the way that he spells it. Okay, and this particular cemetery is spelled just like he spelled his last name. So, do I believe that, you know, this is a little bit deeper than that? Yes, I do. I think Rex Laverne's family, you know, was evil. Period. Period. Okay, and he was using white nationalist ideas against me when I didn't deserve it. I didn't even know who this dude was. You know what I mean? Now I'm starting to understand, you know, because I'm going into the Operation Paperclip. I'm talking about, you know, my dad going to work for NASA. I'm replaying these significant moments in my life, and I'm putting things together, and it's like, okay, this is deep. This Laverne probably had an issue with me for a very, very long time, and the intuitive message I'm getting is because I was a clone. Okay, mind you, it was his own operation, their own operations. That would be including the funeral business, as well as his weird religion and his bizarre racial ideology that created this issue in the first place. Okay, so you know what? I would say his death is just karma. That's what it is. It's karma. Plain and simple. All right, I'm going to wrap this one up, y'all, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.